Hello friends, today we're going to discuss Ahmad's new game. I've personally known Ahmad for a very long time, for many years. We know Ahmad as one of the talented developers behind the hit game Racing in Car 2021. Now Ahmad has released another product, so tell us a bit about it.
I recently came across, or rather someone recommended, the game Wordle to me about 6 months ago. It actually became popular somewhere around 2022, I think. To be honest, it only just recently caught my attention. I started playing it, got a bit hooked, and over time an interesting idea came to me. I thought it would be really interesting to play online against someone else, not just by yourself. The classic Wordle game is specifically designed for solo play, where you guess the word on your own. But that idea came up, and actually, in fact, I implemented it in just a couple of months.
If you want to scale and to get published, go to the CAS.AI website and fill out the publishing form. If you just want to monetize and earn revenue from your game, go to the CAS.AI website and fill out the mediation form. Victoria, could you tell us about word games in general? What do you think about them, and specifically, what's happening in the scary world of organic traffic with these types of games?
Yes, hello everyone. Actually, word games are like match 3 games. Word games are really like match 3. It's incredibly popular, played by everyone from young to old, and there's no real age limit or specific restrictions. That's why the potential here is huge, and there's a lot to work with. But because these are word games, the search queries are very similar and related, but they fit 3 to 4 different types of word games. In reality, they are a bit different, but it's already a different game. For example, someone might be searching for Scrabble, or whatever it's called, and we end up offering them Wordle. So these are actually 2 slightly different games.
Subscribe to the CAS.AI channel and click the bell so you don't miss monetization strategies and case studies from the mobile gaming world.
At the moment, the World Battle Online app currently has a bit of a problem. Its indexing is quite low. I have only added about 30 words there so far, which is not very many. There are 4 keywords in the indexing. 2 reasons for this. It's either because you have very little website traffic or because it's ranked poorly. But most likely, again, the reason is the lack of traffic. Because if we carefully analyze the keywords you sent me, what you have set up right now basically covers the main pool of search queries. You see, everything is highlighted in blue, so the indexing should actually be better. That's why I tend to think that you don't have any organic traffic or basically no paid traffic at all, which is why there's no indexing. As for ASO in general, there's a huge mistake here because you've only used 18 out of 30 characters. And the title is the most important position, which will be ranked first and considered by the App Store by Apple. This needs to be fixed. That is, you need to put relevant keywords here. You need to experiment a bit because look, play against opponents daily. Well, that's definitely cool and all, but in fact we haven't actually mentioned a single relevant keyword here. In general, there still need to be relevant search queries here, because after the title comes the subtitle, which is the most important for ASO and indexing. So I would actually redo the ASO here, really sit down, pay attention to it, and make it a bit more eye-catching. As for the rating, well, our rating is currently below average. The competitors you showed me, you see, all have at least a 4.6. They have 124,000 reviews, and you have only 26 reviews and a 4.5 rating. So, well, that's extremely low, and you won't be able to compete with these apps. You need to maintain at least a 4.8 or 4.9 rating just to even be noticed in the stream. So if we're talking about organic promotion, and for example, we're trying to get you into the top, your rating needs to be better than your competitors. Accordingly, this gives you a better chance to increase the conversion rate from views to installs. As for the screenshots, I actually have no complaints. There are 5, and overall everything is clear. The only thing that throws me off is this enter banner. It draws too much attention to itself. I understand that this is probably how the app actually looks, more or less, but from an outsider's perspective, it's not entirely clear. As for the main captions, overall they're compact, everything is readable, and it's clear what we're talking about. The screenshots here are bright. I have no questions about the icon. Everything is clear and the game's purpose is clear. I don't really have any comments about the screenshots, but I always say if there's an opportunity to test, definitely test the screenshots because you constantly need to work with them. The rating needs to be raised, the ASO needs to be redone. If you have any questions, just ask.
At first, actually, in the title and subtitles, I tried to add as many keywords as possible, but it ended up sounding kind of illogical, more like just a collection of keywords rather than something coherent. So I started running ASA on it, but my conversion rate was poor. I just tried changing the title and subtitle to something more readable, but honestly, I didn't really notice any significant difference.
We had several similar types of apps and we tried acquiring users for them, but we decided that this isn't really our target niche. Maybe if there are more similar projects in the future, we'll give it another try. Overall, the results were pretty good, and I want to draw your attention to the fact that this is a more casual project rather than a hyper casual one, so the metrics here will differ from those I usually talk about. And the ones I highlight in our videos. When we talk about retention rate and day zero growth, it's important to fully understand that because of the long tail, users, first of all, tend to stay in the game for a long time, since they're genuinely really interested in picking out words and letters. As Vika mentioned, when you're on public transport, you need something to occupy yourself with, so they come back to the game quite often. So if we look here at the retention rate on day 7 and day 30, now I didn't show data for days beyond that, but even if we look at just these two games, the day 30 retention rate is 5%, which is actually quite a lot. If we compare, for example, with hyper-casual projects where the day 30 retention rate is 1.5%, or even less than a percent depending on the game. And look, what I want to highlight for you here is that we had both Android and iOS. And with our paid traffic on iOS, this was the TCPI that we had. Now I'll open it up in more detail and show you where we bought traffic, how we calculated everything, and what the final results were. Again, since this is a more casual project, the day zero ROAS was much lower here. Together with our analysts, we calculated what was needed for the game to break even. Honestly, I don't remember exactly anymore. I'd have to look it up, but roughly the game's break-even point was somewhere around 6 months more or 4 months more. You need to buy traffic targeting a day zero ROAS of about 20 to 25%, depending on the platform. Specifically for this game, we calculated a day zero ROAS of 17, and here's what we managed to achieve. Take a look. Again, yes, the day one retention rate is up to 40%. That's very good. On day 7, sometimes we see 25%, and if we're talking about paid traffic that we acquired, we even have day 30 retention rates of 13 to 14%. It holds steady. And if we take a closer look at the networks, here's the average ECPI that we managed to get. This is specifically for Android. And now let's look at the same game on iOS. We also bought Apple Search ads here too. The day 30 retention rate is quite good. And look, this is specifically for iOS, and here is the average TPI that we got. The most expensive one I can see here is 35 cents. I completely confirm what Victoria said. Apple Search ads are very expensive. We tested several different projects that we had available, and it was probably never any cheaper than $3, maybe about $1.50 if we were lucky, but we just couldn't get it any lower for this genre of games. It would also be good to try Facebook, and as you can see, it's the networks, because the cost per install in the networks is actually very, very good, and you can work with it and make it work. Today, everything I showed you, dear viewers, those who are watching us, following us, and asking questions, we looked at using AppMagic. AppMagic is one of our partners that helps us analyze games in terms of user acquisition and SDKs, and it has a lot of different interesting features. Now, let's take a moment to carefully look at the competitors you sent us. And here is one of the first competitors, Wordle. What do we have here? The main download traffic comes from the USA, UK, Canada. Everything we talked about is tier 1, including Australia, pure tier 1. There's a bit from India, the Philippines, and also from tier 3 countries. But as you can see, the main source of revenue here also comes from the USA, which is of course quite logical. I didn't see any user acquisition here. I'll show you as well that there wasn't any because, again, iOS apps can conduct advertising campaigns on Apple Search ads, Facebook, Google, and not be tracked. Since you've already run iOS campaigns on Google, you've seen for yourself that in most cases, probably around 70 to 80% of those installs, depending on exactly how you updated and set up Firebase, will end up being attributed to organic sources overall. That's why there are such a large number of installs, and that's also why I probably wouldn't recommend currently running your first iOS tests on Google right now. But let's take a look at some other apps as well. I didn't see any paid acquisition in any of them, but then I also checked Android just so we could see where there is paid acquisition on Android. And look, this is pure AdMob over the last 90 days. Let's check out the creatives. No extras, simply pure gameplay. That's it.
Notice the very calm and soothing color palette, as you can see. It's so boring that you just really can't miss it. I'd actually delete something like this right away.
I don't like it either, for the record. But again, that's just simply our own subjective opinion. If we actually look at the number of impressions, it's pretty low on these creatives.
Zoriana, can you check what SDKs are used here?
There's AdMob, AppsFlyer, and that's it. AdMob, I assume, is there because they have rewards. If we open them, there are rewards here, extra bonus time, so it's just AdMob and AppsFlyer. Well, it must be there for some reason, even if there are no purchases.
This is an example of how not to make games.
Right? Yes, how you shouldn't do it. Here, situation is different. Look, as you can see, this is the first game we looked at, the first competitor. Here, everything is in place. Here, they already have Facebook, AppLovin, Yandex, and for some reason, Firebase too.
No sphere, so everything's fine.
They have Adjust.
I think they're running only on organic traffic. This Wordle, with the exclamation mark, is the oldest competitor and caught traffic right when Wordle became popular.
Just a second, Zoriana, sorry. If we're talking about other people's brands, in order for you to be able to grab some organic traffic from them or somehow catch some for yourself, you need to be on the same level. Like, for example, Airbnb advertising on Booking, or vice versa. Both are very well-known and popular brands, both deal with hotels, apartments, accommodations, and so on, so they can each take a share. But in your case, even if you're in second place, you actually won't get anything at all, really, in fact. Well, your conversion rate will be 1 to 2%, meaning it will be very low simply because your brand isn't popular yet. But this is Wordle, everyone knows it. Specifically, with Wordle and Scully, most likely 95% of people will install Wordle. If they don't like something, there's immediately some kind of in-app subscription. In situations like that, they might delete Wordle and then install other apps one by one. But in this particular case, there's really no point in considering promotion for this keyword.
And let's look at our last competitor that I found today. This was also a small ad campaign on Google, but really a very small one. Let's look at the number of impressions and check out one top creative. Again, the color palette is very, very calm and soothing. Well, if there's a really long playtime and high retention rate, if I had to look at neon colors for 30 minutes, my eyes would probably pop out. Maybe that's why it makes sense to use more pastel tones.
It's interesting in this world daily, even on their page, their third screenshot shows this multiplayer feature that I implemented. And it's shown in the creative, but it's nowhere to be found in the actual game.
In my own subjective world, and I want to be clear that I'm certainly not claiming any kind of objectivity here. There's really no need at all to focus on multiplayer in the creatives. What you need to do is praise the user in some way, pat them on the head, tell them they're smart, that their IQ is increasing, that they know English even better than Charles Dickens himself.